the game of the day and one of the I don't even know if I can call it one of the best games we've seen in a while, but it certainly was a close game that we saw today. Number 1 Tennessee goes on the road to Illinois, struggles with foul trouble. Zakai Ziegler plays 4 minutes in the second half. Chaz Lanier fouls out of the game. There are more fouls in this game than we've seen on Zach Edey in a single game in the history of college basketball. And it ends up with a Jordan Gainey game-winning layup at the buzzer. Tennessee 66, Illinois 64. What is your single biggest takeaway from this matchup?
That I'm finally sold on Tennessee. I'm finally sold. It always takes me a while. Every single year I hold out. I'm like, I don't know. And then by this time, I'm like, all right, you know what? They're tough. And every year they're tough, right? Every year we know that. But, you lose Dalton Connect after last year. You're like, all right, look at their roster. It's kind of underwhelming, right? And Zakai Ziegler's back, and he's terrific, but, he's not going to blow you away with anything he does. In fact, his best attribute is probably his defense. But they bring in Chaz Lanier, and they bring in the second best, for the second year in a row, the best mid-major transfer in the country. And he's out of the game at the end. He fouls out with 3.5 minutes left. And Ziegler's out because he fouled out, and he only played, I think, 5 or 6 minutes the whole second half. But the hero is Jordan Gainey, a USC upstate transfer who transfers to Tennessee to play for his dad, Justin Gainey, an assistant. It's a crazy story, and I'm finally in on Tennessee as a legitimate Final Four national title contender.
Look, as the resident kind of Tennessee, the Tennessee fan here on the field of 68, let me tell you that the minute that you are in on Tennessee, that is when they break your hearts. Like, it's over. The season's about to go downhill for the Vols.
Yes. This happens to you every year.
Every year when I find myself getting all the way in on Tennessee, that's when they kind of they break your hearts. But you're right. Like, look, that building today, right, in Champaign was going absolutely bonkers. It's not often. I was actually texting Hummel this during the game. It's not often these days where I get FOMO for not being in an arena where I'm watching a game taking place. I'm like, oh man, like I would give anything to be in that building right now. I was thinking that watching that game, like I would love to be there. It was insane. It was packed. It was loud. The intensity on the floor lived up to the intensity in the stands. And it was physical, man. Like the part of it was not a pretty brand of basketball to watch. And this is what Tennessee kind of does to you, right? They try to out physical you. They try to turn it into a game of rugby. They try to kind of dare officials to call a foul on every single possession because that's the way that they're going to play. They're going to be hand fighting you. You're going to get checked every single time you go through a screen. I'll tell you this much, man. There are a lot of underrated players in college basketball, and Jemai Mashak should be up near the top of that list. What he did defensively to Kasparis Yakashonis, who finished with 21 points, but he had him in hell whenever they were matched up together. And I was really, really impressed with what they were able to do. And then I think, and I'll give it back to you on this, Goodman. I think we all know how good Chaz Lanier is, right? And we know how good Zakai Ziegler's been for a long time. And the fact that they were able to go on the road and get the win that they got without those two playing the second half, essentially, more or less, it was our producer, Trevor Valise, kind of phrased it the best for me, is that Tennessee outscored Illinois in the second half with the Zakai Ziegler on like basically playing 4 minutes and Chaz Lanier fouling out. I think he got his fourth foul with 7:56 left and came back in and played for like 30 seconds and then got his fifth foul. So they basically didn't have those two down the stretch, and they were able to win that game on the road in front of that crowd. It's just a really, really, really impressive win against an Illinois team who, let's call it like it is. They're one of the top 25 teams in America.
They're talent-wise, they're probably one of the top 10 teams in America. Talent-wise. Now, again, their best players, their highest upside players are still very young to college basketball. Not necessarily young, but young to college basketball. I thought, again, there were a couple things there. To me, Milicic was awesome down the stretch. He was terrific on the glass especially. And then you had a couple plays that I'm sure Brad Underwood would love to have back, right? Those sideline out of bounds, the out of bounds plays, the one that
Those are
was
bad,
thrown back
man.
into the back court, to Kasparis that gave him no shot really to make a play. There was another one coming out of a timeout. So like those were a couple plays that I'm sure and the other one is, do you call a timeout at the end? Like, do you call a timeout? He did not call a timeout at the end. And obviously we saw what happened with Gainey just going coast to coast.
Yeah, I don't mind not calling the timeout there. The turnovers on the sideline out of bounds were the killers, because one of them led directly to a dunk at the other end. And Tennessee had they were struggling to score in stretches there. I think the thing that impressed me the most about Illinois here today was what they could do defensively. I mean, they held Tennessee to 32% shooting. They were Tennessee was 6 for 24 from beyond the arc. It was a really impressive defensive performance, but it was not what you wanted from them offensively. And look, to a point, when you got a guy like Will Riley, who is a freshman, who is a reclass freshman, who is, one of these jumbo-sized ball handlers who kind of is still trying to figure out his handle a little bit. I think we all could have predicted that he would struggle against a Tennessee team that is this physical. I don't think anybody is shocked that KJ struggled against Jemai Mashak and what he can do defensively. Like, those guys are just so tough and so physical with what they do on that side of the ball. I think that this was a good learning experience for Illinois. Like, they're never going to – there's no point this season when they are going to play a team that is able to kind of physically manhandle them the way that Tennessee can physically manhandle you. And I think that is a good thing for Illinois long term. Sucks that it had to come in a loss, but that's kind of how these things kind of play out sometimes.